Her name is Carol Compton. She's just under 5 feet tall, is feisty, fun, and owns a 1940 Ford business coupe that most guys would kill for. She also knows every inch of it by heart, and when it came time to go ahead with the build, it was either her way or no way at all.
I guess about 10 years ago, we kept looking at cars at the shows every time we went, and I always pointed out, I'd say, oh, I like that red one, no, I like the yellow one, and every time he'd say, Carol, it's a 40 Ford. I would pick a different color, but it was always the same 40 Ford. The Sweet Pea name came because this nun used to plant the sweet peas and then bring me beautiful bouquets to my office. And I'd keep them, and then about once or twice a week, she'd bring me a new batch. She was like a grandma to me. She always called me to take her to the dentist or the doctor or wherever. And so it really was sad for me when she passed. And I said, well, my car has to be Sweet Pea. There was no other name I wanted to name it.
You know, the cars from the 40s and the 50s were really, really beautiful. I mean, they were so highly styled with the big bulbous fenders and the large windows. And you have really cool design cues like this creased windshield, right? It's 2 pieces of glass. The rear window is split. Think like a 63 Corvette and you'll get the idea. There are a lot of little touches that you have to look for in this car. Things like the mirror stalks, right? Things like the way the trunk has been pancaked. The grille, the Halobrand wheels, for instance, are simply beautiful, and they are real Halobrand wheels. Carol, she does have a nice artistic background, likes everything smooth, and that's apparent when you first look at the car.
Bob bought it for me at Christmas time about 10 years ago. It was white at the time, and it was a question of what color did I want it, what did I want to do to it, and all of that. Well, I kept looking at this poor little car, and I said, I think it'd look nicer if it didn't have that rubber running board, so everybody gets to work and makes them smooth. Then I said, I think I don't want handles now, so the handles are gone. And then I said, well, that trunk thing looks ridiculous, so let's get that off so it'll be smooth back there. So now I got a pretty smooth car.
Let's talk about the paint on this car. When you look at the paint in the daylight, you notice that, well, sometimes it goes from bronze to a burgundy to a root beer, then back to cinnamon, and it's pretty amazing because at any given time, it can appear to be a different color. It is probably the deepest paint I've seen on a car. We were talking to Chris Miranda, the painter and builder, and Chris said there is 17 coats of paint, or it was either 17 or 26, but I'll get him to clarify on that. Either way, it's beautifully done. There is not a swirl mark, a streak. I mean, the paint truly is flawless. And I would say if there is one defining aspect of this car, then the paint is it.
So when I'm at a show, people always ask me, what color is that car? First, I used to say, Carol Essence. Well, they looked at me like I was weirder than I am. So I told them it's cinnamon. I know it has candy root beer, and I know it has some candy tangerine, and I know it has brandy wine and all these colors. But I say, you know, I'll never tell anybody my formula. I just don't want to see a whole bunch of them going down the road the same color.
It's so funny now. You look at cars back then, and cars were just, they were actually quite big, but the interiors were really small. So it's very, very narrow. So two big guys like myself and Thad are pretty close to each other. It's the way cars were made. I don't know, maybe people were smaller.
I'm not quite 5 feet tall. I mean, if I had a giant long Cadillac or something, I think I just wouldn't work for me. But the little coupe is good. I feel like it's easy to turn, easy for me to handle. It's more my size.
As far as the handling of the car, it handles just fine. I mean, it's nice and cushy. It's not a corner car by any means, and it doesn't have to be. The seats are out of a Lexus, and they are very, very comfortable. We have full electric function. We go back, forth, up, down. They're probably, I would say, 8 to 10 way adjustable, which is kind of cool. We have really nice touches like air conditioning, right? We have power windows, things that make the car livable for Carol. Now in the back, there's this little package tray, and it's padded. She likes to have the package tray back there, so every now and then she can take her grandkids back there. Not for a major long haul ride, but just to go around the block and show them that, guess what? Your grandma is cooler than your friend's grandmas. Well, if I had a grandma that had a hot rod, I'd be telling everybody.
Well, that's another story. You want to hear it? I hot-wired the car because my mother never would let me take it anywhere. I never had a key, so forget that. But I saw somewhere that if you fold a piece of foil thick in a square and you stick it up behind where the ignition is, and then it'll start. Well, darn if it didn't. So I had a girlfriend that lived across the street. Oh, maybe twice a week or so, we'd take this car and we'd go down to the plaza or someplace downtown Oakland and get a milkshake, a Coke, anything, or just ride a little ways around just to be having the car.
It's interesting, but this is one of the few cars that we've driven on this show that I don't want to speed in. I don't want to go fast. I just kind of want to lump along, right? I want people to look at me in this car, and I want them to take in the detail work that's been done to it. The motor, and don't get crazy, do not get crazy on this, is a 350 Chevy. The transmission is a 700 R4, so it's an overdrive tranny. The rear end, Ford 9-inch. Nothing crazy here. We have disc brakes in the front, drums in the back. I mean, is it fast? Well, I wouldn't say it's fast, but it goes, so if I put my foot down, you know, drops down a gear and jumps out of the way, which is fine. It has about 300 or so horsepower.
I enjoy driving it down the road, and I like the other people, you know, they give me a thumbs up and stuff on my car, and it makes me proud. I don't think I'd ever want a race car. I think 65, 70 is good enough for me. I don't want to take it 120 or something like that.
She's not a speed demon. She's not smoking the tires, but she does like to have fun. I mean, one of the things is, if you hear, I've got to switch under the dashboard. Everything just got a little bit louder because she likes the dumps. And when she pulls in the shows, there's nothing cooler than a nice little older lady pulling in and opening dumps on a hot rod. That's just cool.
We've met many of our good friends through the car club. Our club is the P-Town Push Rods, which are from Pleasanton. Everything we do is for the veterans. So it makes you feel like it's kind of a worthwhile cause as well. And I think that people really feel like you're a family in our car club.
It's a wonderful experience for me to find somebody like Carol, because she kind of brings a little purity back to the hobby. You know, she talks about it the way I think people did back in the day, that it's a fun way to get together with my friends. It kind of takes you back to like American Graffiti. You know, you watch movies like that, or, you know, Two-Lane Blacktop, or any of those old movies, and you realize that people used to drive cars because they like to drive cars. Where today, a lot of times, they're just status symbols. And I think that as hobbyists, we need to get back to driving cars for the sake of enjoyment, as opposed to driving cars for the sake of showing off. I'll be honest with you, we haven't really jumped on this car all that hard because I don't want to. I have this vision of Carol just kind of looking at me with his face going, I don't think you should have jumped on my car that hard.
Watching improvements later.
Yeah, I feel like I just don't want to be scolded. Give me the biggest guy in the world and have him yell at me, that's 100% okay. There's this little 5 foot tall, tiny lady that drives this car, and I would probably cry if she yelled at me.